Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Ogrodowski of WeAreChange.org here in Poland. I'm going to get to that in just a little bit. But in this video specifically, we are going to be talking about how the U.S. government just absolutely wasted $1.48 trillion, increasing national. There's so many things to talk about. This as Iran and North Korea are launching missiles. Tulsi Gabbard is making a lot of waves. There's even talk about end the Fed, which is good. We're of course going to get into more news relating to the pedophile billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, plus a lot more on an independent media organization that doesn't stop. And the reason we don't stop is because YouTube, Google, Facebook, they don't care about a diversity of opinion. They don't care about the truth or independent reporters or citizen journalists without any ties to any special interest groups. They care about having an easily manipulated and controlled mainstream media narrative. And this is why we can't take a day off, even on one of my craziest travel days. I traveled here all the way to Poland, so stay tuned for more coverage on the ground here in Poland, by the way, my home country, the motherland here of potatoes and vodka and all this other stuff. We're going to get into that in later videos. But of course, these videos wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for you, incredible, amazing people supporting us on WeAreChange.org/donate. And you can get involved in many ways with a one-time donation. Just simply $5 a month means the world to us. We also have Change Media Universities. We also have cryptocurrencies. We actually have physical mail and even a way for you to be involved without spending a single dollar. Check out WeAreChange.org/donate and join the fight against censorship and do something to put your money where your mouth is. You, and only by your action, deciding that independent media will stay alive and fight another day. Now, the first story that I really wanted to talk about today is something that has been grabbing my attention, and that, of course, are the big moves made by presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard. Now, as you know, I've been very critical of all politicians, regardless of their party lines, because ultimately their actions matter. And I do believe it's worth looking into some of Tulsi Gabbard's latest actions, even though many people are very critical of her for being a part of the Council on Foreign Relations. But regardless of that, she is still making major moves, with recently announcing that she is suing Google for $50 million because, according to her, Google violated her free speech, specifically describing how Google Ads suspended her account during a crucial time around the last Democratic presidential debates, an action that wasn't fully explained by Google, but had severe ramifications for the presidential candidate. And this is not the first time that Google has been caught finagling in political affairs, showing clear political bias like they have before. And this is a very important topic to bring up since, of course, Google, according to many independent analysts and even studies, has the ability to sway and change elections. Now, the level if they are doing this is still very debatable, but the possibility and power is there. A vast power held in corporate hands of a multinational conglomerate that has a monopoly on the market of online digital affairs, and something that should scare the bejesus out of everyone when looking at the full ramifications of their authority. Now, this is also interesting, the timing of all of this happening, since Donald Trump also just recently tweeted that, quote, there may or may not be national security concerns with regard to Google and their relationship with China. If there's a problem, we will find out about it. I sincerely hope there is not. This, of course, is following the very controversial remarks by Peter Thiel that we covered previously on this show of the possibility that Google could be working on the next Manhattan Project, like innovation surrounding artificial intelligence, specifically with China. Now, according to some sources, there already is an investigation being done on Google, which of course is a very, very important issue that we are going to be following very closely, especially since many people would argue that many of these private companies have more influence and power than government itself. And this is why it's important to examine the kind of relationship that goes on between these private interests with, of course, our public office. And speaking in regards of that very same topic, we, of course, have the Federal Reserve, which is also under scrutiny by Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump, with Tulsi Gabbard recently announcing that she will be co-sponsoring the Audit the Federal Reserve bill, which was actually documented in our video, as Zero Hedge just did an article about this, and finally people are piecing together our initial video report and interview with Congressman Thomas Macy about this very topic, about this announcement regarding, finally, some oversight and transparency over the quasi-Federal Reserve, which surprisingly Tulsi Gabbard is supporting, which is a very important piece of legislation that has been watered down before, has been attacked before, and maybe one day will shed a light so we could understand how our financial system is actually run. This also at the same time is coinciding as Donald Trump is, quote, ramping up the pressure on the U.S. Federal Reserve. This is according to Markets Insider, that is talking about how Donald Trump recently has been lambasting the U.S. Federal Reserve, urging them to, of course, lower interest rates, which of course has been met by mixed reactions. And if you remember, Donald Trump previously in October of 2018 has even described the Federal Reserve as his, quote, biggest threat, even going as far as to compare it to China when it comes to being adversaries against him in the United States. But moving forward in yet another speculative, out of control, out of hand market, we of course have the U.S. defense budget, which the U.S. House of Representatives just voted and passed more outlandish spending, more debt, more ridiculous, stupid, backwards, idiotic bill that approved $1.48 trillion to the U.S. Pentagon. And this is just an astronomical amount of money. Shows you how our entire economic system is just a fraud. It's just based on a joke. It's going to be impossible to pay off the 22, now increasing unknown amounts of trillions of dollars. That is the absolute definition of wasteful spending. And again, even according to many experts, even establishment pro-war experts, a lot of the military spending is absolutely idiotic. I mean, the Air Force, literally, in the United States, has coffee cups that are worth $1,300. I don't think you guys understand this. The U.S. Air Force has coffee cups with $1,300 each. You could feed and clothe the world over with that money easily. But yet we're spending it on coffee cups that are more than $1,000 each. And of course, Donald Trump is applauding this, saying that this is a, quote, victory for the U.S. military, which is absolutely stupid and indebting this country and will further lead to the destruction of the U.S. dollar and the U.S. hegemony in the world because of its idiocy, which is exactly what this is. With this bill, also Trump vetoed many important provisions in the latest congressional bills, specifically vetoing his ability to sell weapons to Saudi Arabia, the country spreading extremism and terrorism all throughout the world with Wahhabist schools, creating more terrorism, creating the worst humanitarian crisis in Yemen, which only engages the United States in this stupid, pointless war on terror, which they're financing at the same time. And boom, rinse and repeat, you have a perfect cycle of how incompetent, of how stupid the people are for allowing the government to get away with this. Now, moving forward, in perfect timing, we're also getting news that North Korea has launched a missile, specifically launching and testing 2 new missiles as a warning to what's being described as South Korean warmongers. This, of course, is mainly a response by North Korea in their ongoing petition, which we've been talking about for years now. For years now, North Korea has been asking South Korea and the United States not to hold military drills where they practice the bombing and destruction of North Korea. South Korea and the United States are still continuing with these drills, which are ultimately the key. If the United States stops these drills, North Korea, for years now, has been saying that they would concede on many of the United States' demands. The United States is not doing that. And this is why we're having North Korea commit this ridiculous missile test, which is only hurting the future of diplomacy here. Now, of course, the U.S. mainstream media is trying to bait Donald Trump and being more aggressive. I mean, what else do you expect than the puppeteers of the warmongering industry to call for more conflict? Gee, what a surprise there. Wonder who feeds them. Wonder who they get the paycheck from. But most importantly here, what's happening here is many people are now talking about the U.S.-South Korean drills, which is not only going to be a part of missile tests that South Korea and the United States will be doing, but again, this is the key issue. The key issue of what North Korea has been asking for years is that they do not want warplanes and warships practicing destroying their country. But again, this is a point that a lot of people will miss here. And again, it's the key to the peace between North and South Korea, and also, of course, the United States. And oh, gee whiz, here's another surprise at the same perfect timing again. Iran also has said that they successfully tested their own medium-range missile, which again just shows you another factor in the destruction of diplomacy and the idiocy of more saber rattling throughout these entire geopolitical situations that look like there won't be any end to it. And now, moving forward, just like we promised, we always said we're going to be keeping a very close eye on the Jeffrey Epstein case. Again, our attention here is absolutely critical to seeing how things will play out. Our eyes have a severe effect on all of this, and this is why it's so important for independent media to still have a voice. This is why it's so important for you to share videos, because guess what? Google and YouTube have stopped recommending us. It's not only just demonetization, but they are making sure they are bleeding us out slowly so we don't have a say in these very important matters, like the matter of Jeffrey Epstein, which, by the way, the corruption we've been covering for years now, and finally it's being uncovered and investigated, and holy cow, does the situation look nasty. As we're getting news that the Palm Beach Sheriff's Department is now opening up and broadening and widening its internal probe into, of course, the criminal investigation of what that police department did, on how they failed to do their job time and time again over the outrage that people have surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein case. This is, of course, where Jeffrey Epstein got a sweetheart deal of a lifetime, and his underage children victims were classified as prostitutes. Yes, that was the work of the authorities in this situation. We're also finding out today that Jeffrey Epstein's pilots are being subpoenaed in this investigation, whose testimony could be used to corroborate very important details surrounding this case, especially with the secrecy and obstruction of clear justice that has been happening with the flight records of Jeffrey Epstein and the very powerful people that he, of course, was connected with. And again, this case is only going to get more shocking from here. And already, it's shocking enough. It's absolutely shocking enough to understand the details of this situation. But when you really start looking at even the events that are still just unfolding, even just today, we found out that Jeffrey Epstein was allowed to travel to New York City unsupervised on overnight trips during, of course, his probation, where, of course, he was staying not only to children's playgrounds, but also to many of his victims' schools. Again, no one in their right mind, no one under our judicial legal system would be ever allowed to do this. And this is just one out of dozens of inconsistencies that go along with the Jeffrey Epstein trial, the Jeffrey Epstein saga, that prove he was always above the law and always given extreme special privileges to get away with the worst, most heinous acts that a person can commit. And again, the outrage, the attention, the clicks, the views, the people demanding justice here is something that has led to this crescendo moment where I think we finally will have justice, when there was such a big lack of it for so long. And we have to understand here, a lot of this lack of justice, a lot of this dereliction of duty, a lot of this, not even incompetence, a lot of this was done on purpose. A lot of these horrible acts that were done on purpose were done by the very establishment, by the very authority that many people still somehow entrust. And this happened for over decades, and it's time now that we put an end to it. And the best way to do that is, of course, to pay close attention to it and not to let them hide in secrecy. So yeah, that's my personal take on it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below of this video. I always look forward to your feedback because, again, you guys drive this independent media operation. If it wasn't for you guys giving me tips, comments, feedback, constructive criticism, hell, I wouldn't be here. And that's why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.